Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point, and I'm your host, Dave Kocharhook. Today, we're going to be talking about art. Not dancing or singing, whatever. We're going to be talking about painting, drawing, sculpting to a certain degree, ceramics, and that sort of a thing, because I think that's a very interesting area, and it's important for us as individuals to kind of like have that side of our brain active, but also I think it's a cool thing and an important thing to be involved in our educational systems. You know, we got the left side and the right side, and we got to make sure everything is in balance. And who is here to help me in this conversation today is Winifred Brown. Winnie, thank you for coming on Reference Point. Pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored that you asked me.
And I'm real excited about talking to you about some of the things that you're doing, because as an artist, you and I had a chance to talk a little bit before the show, and as an artist who has gotten very much involved and into that creative endeavor, you didn't start out doing that when you were like in first or second grade. You sort of started doing that a little bit later in your career, right?
Well, yeah, I went back to school in 2005 when I turned 40. But I'd been drawing since I was a little girl, but you know, the best thing I did was go back to school later in life. I much more appreciated it, made a lot more connections, grew a lot more as an artist and as an all-around person. So it worked out well for me.
So when you say, you know, you talk about the going to school for that, what did you specifically gain from going to a school of art that would, you know, as opposed to learning as you go type thing?
Well, I did a year up at one of the art institutes in San Francisco. I was originally going for animation, and I went through all the core classes very well, but once I hit the computer classes, I didn't do so well, and I'm a fine artist instead of a computer artist, and so what I gained there is I got an eye-opener as to what I'd been missing, pretty much. You know, I thought I'd been able to do it myself in the past, but speaking for myself, I needed some direction. And the teachers I hooked up with at the Art Institute just gave me some wonderful pointers, and I took them and ran.
Pointers in terms of what kind of thing? Are we talking about contrast of color, depth of field? I mean, what kind of stuff were you able to... I think just about everybody has sat down every now and again and tried to draw stuff, you know, whatever. And then eventually you start to figure out how to make things look like they're near or far or whatever. But that's a lot of trial and error. And clearly you had been involved in doing that for quite some period of time. What were they able to provide you specifically in the way of enhancements that really made the light bulb go off and you went, wow, this is so cool?
Well, I'll tell you, I learned to look correctly. I went through all these classes just to learn to re-look at everything around me, and I went through observational drawing with a wonderful teacher, Beth Howell, and she told me that, and I could see for myself, that I just had been seeing things incorrectly. My drawing, my art had kind of had a cartoonish quality to it, and I was looking for more realism. And she said, I'm just looking at things incorrectly. And so it really came down to opening my eyes and seeing things in a different way that I'd not seen before. And I actually needed somebody to tell me how to do it. You know, some of us do, yeah.
So when you say seeing it incorrectly, could you give me a specific example of what that might mean? We don't actually have a thing to show, but
in looking at portraits, I'm very interested in drawing people's faces, and up until I'd gone to school, I'd pretty much drawn outlines of faces and just kind of filled in the details, and that's what was making me unhappy. And then when I went into observational drawing, again, I saw that I wasn't looking at the shapes that I was seeing clearly. I mean, everything comes down to a collection of basic shapes, no matter how complex the form, and I just wasn't getting my basic shapes right. And once I learned to do that as well, to see everything as a collection of basic shapes, I did much better. Yeah, so that's another thing that helped too.
So that's an interesting concept, being able to see things as a collection of basic shapes, because I think that does make sense. There, you know, squares, ovals, circles, rectangles, whatever, triangular, and I guess as an artist, when you're looking at someone, you can just say, "Here's this finished product, there's this whole thing looking," but then let me rephrase that. As an individual, one might look and say, oh, well, there's this lady, she's got a face and she's wearing glasses and she's got blonde hair. How cool is that? But then from an artistic perspective, you might look at it and see things in terms of shapes and angles and whatever that then enable you to replicate that in a drawing or a painting or something like that. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, pretty much. And then for me, it's always the emotion in the subject that I'm studying. That's what gives my art most of its punch. You know, I'm looking for things that, you know, may not just be happy, but might be sorrowful, might be disturbing, and looking to show it, to represent it. It's kind of a psychotherapy for me when I do my art.
Cool.
I get out all these feelings, I learn to deal with them. If I don't understand something, sometimes it helps if I draw it, and I can more easily cope with it, or at least the idea of something like that.
Cool. I want to give us an opportunity to take a look at some of the things that you have done, but I
Sure.
really want to focus the conversation right now on something that you're involved with at the moment, because I think it's really interesting, and I think the folks, if they've driven anywhere around cities of San Jose, Cupertino, Campbell, you know, most of the South Bay, you'll see that there are these electrical boxes on corners, the things that control the lights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a number of cities have started to try to look for ways to beautify that kind of square, unattractive, either drab green or gray structure, and make it something that's kind of cool looking. And so you are involved with that in the city of Campbell, is that right?
Yes, and it's a wonderful project. You know, back in the day, cities had murals everywhere, on the walls, on the floors, on the ceilings, and I would like to get back to that somehow, you know, and I'm so glad that the city of Campbell was running this beautification contest. You know, back in January, they had a call for artists to submit designs, and it was pretty open, you know, standard-wise, certain things, you know, no numbers, no letters, other things like that, but pretty much you were open creativity-wise. And, you know, when I went on to look at the location of the boxes, one of them was near the Heritage Theater in Campbell.
Oh, right.
And, you know, the Campbell has a wonderful live music scene. The Heritage Theater, the music in the parks on Thursday, the first Friday music walks in the summer, all of the local places that have live music and the local bands that are working so hard, Lencat, Cadillac Jack Henrik and the Fly-By Nights, all these bands that you can see every night for free, and a lot of these places welcome kids, so it's a family type affair. And I think, you know, if you share music, it brings people together, and music is a big part of my artwork. You know, excuse me, once I saw where the boxes were, I immediately got an idea in my mind of music instruments.
Music instruments,
yes.
Okay. And so from that you came up with sort of a design that you might think, and I think we have a graphic, it's the first one on our, and I think about the box, that's the concept of what you were looking at. So, and you can see there's a whole slew of musical instruments and multiple panels, because these boxes, obviously, they're rectangular, they go all the way around, and there's something on the top and stuff like that. So this was a general concept that you developed, right? Yeah,
they had the excuse me, the template online that you downloaded, and you were to create the image right on the template. And when I was honored to have won, totally honored, and to be given such a public spot on the corner of Winchester and Campbell. But when I actually looked at the box, the size of the box didn't quite fit my design, so I had to change it slightly. I had to create the guitar, the drum, the sax, and the tambourine for the front, and put the bass on one end, the trumpet and keyboards on the other, and I had a whole space on the back that was empty. And because the city decided that it was too big to paint on the top, I decided to expand the abstract image on the top originally and add it to the back. Yeah, and I'm adding harmonica, bongos, maracas,
and if I'm not mistaken, there's a secondary structure there as well. And I think the next image we have where you started to just take a look. So this was, you know, this is kind of what the thing looked like after we don't have the gray. But you kind of painted it white, and then you got the outline, and you can see two of the sides, I guess, from this perspective right now, right?
Yes, you see the front right now, and most of my work is done freehand. I kind of eyeball what I'm looking at, eyeball my image, and then put it on how I like it. And With these, most of them were draw freehand, even the straight lines at first,
that's cool.
because there's a beauty in a straight line drawn by hand.
And then from this perspective, we go to the next image, which actually takes us part of the progress of this thing. And so now you're starting to get a little, but the things that you had sketched out in terms of, now we're starting to fill in, and it's looking pretty cool. And if you go to the next image, now we've really got some, you can see they got the notes, the drums, and that sort of thing. So this really starts to take shape. Now, when did you start working on the box?
Well, I started at the beginning of June, and they kind of had us start at different times. Some artists start at the beginning of May, and they just didn't want to have to primer any more than one box at a time.
Okay.
And they're pretty open as to how long we have. They don't want you to take a long, long time. But the city's very good about giving me plenty of time to finish it. And originally when I came up with the design, I did it in hopes of simplicity, but again, it came down to a little bit longer. A little bit more. This is my first art installation, yeah.
There you go, public art installation. Yes. So now, you said you started in early June. We're taping this show in middle July, so you've been working on it for 5 weeks or so like that. And you can see as we're progressing how it goes. Let's go to the next one. We got a couple of slides of how things are looking now. It's much more current, and you can see a lot more detail. You've got the down at the bottom with the triangles and the swirls and stuff and all. It's just really taking shape, and it's so colorful. The reds, black and white and red. It's really it just pops. When you drive down the street there, you see this cool image. Let's go to the last one there, and now you can see that secondary structure that's down behind and to the left, and so. When you got the original concept to do, did you know that you had that to deal with as well?
Yes, I knew I had two boxes, and originally, when I came up with the music instruments, I originally thought of abstract designs to go with it. When I was in algebra years ago, I had to concentrate so much on algebra that I really couldn't concentrate on anything else art-wise, and so I came up with a system of drawing basic shapes, and my one rule was don't think. And I can create wonderful things that way. Spontaneity is a beautiful thing, and some of the abstract designs that I have with this design came from some of the things I drew while in algebra.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and again, back to basic shapes. I love basic shapes. There's a beauty in them. And then the abstract shapes in these pieces are meant to evoke the sights, sounds, emotions of living in Campbell.
Okay.
Not exactly to represent anything hard and clear. And then, with the color combination, black, red, and white, they were looking something for, energetic and color, eye-catching. And red, black, and white are the colors of our traffic signs, our stoplights.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't get much energetic and eye-catching than that. And it kind of evokes feelings. I look at it, and it just evokes old-time feelings for me, a lightheartedness. I hear music without even hearing it.
What's interesting about that is that I've seen a lot of these things. You drive around, like I said, in Cupertino or Campbell or San Jose. They've got a number of these things like that, and some of them catch your eye right away, and some of them you go past as, oh, there was one, and I think it's that something like this. This is a very bright color that you got there with that stark white and then the black and the red. It just jumps out at you.
Thank you.
I want to let the folks know that if they have any questions about this type of an activity or any questions about art for Winnie, you can send inquiries to us here at info@referencepointtv.com, and we'll make sure to get those things over to you.
Great.
So how many of these structures are being done in the city of Campbell?
Well, this year I think there's maybe about 9 or 10 artists working right now, and
cool.
I think I might be one of the last ones to be painting right now. And as soon as we're all done, the city comes by and seals them over with an anti-graffiti and clear coating.
Oh, nice.
And puts a little plaque on the side with our name and who donated the honorarium. And I'm so glad the city of Campbell values their artists to give them a little bit of a stipend to help with the supplies. It very much helps.
Very cool.
Yes.
So now, is this one of the larger things you've done?
Yeah, I think this is probably the largest thing I've done. Up until now, I've painted on friends' kids' walls, things like that. And then most of my artwork is smaller. I do pastels, watercolor, oils, collages.
Well, now there you go. See, now that takes me into this conversation about the variety of different media that you use in order to express the art. Because I guess some people, you know, they'll just kind of like, this is what they do. They work in wood, or they work in, you know, ceramics, or they do pottery, or whatever. And so they tend to be somewhat one or two dimensional with respect to their art. But you've worked in a lot of different mediums. So tell me a little bit about that. How did that sort of evolve?
Well, I can see where some artists just do one or two things. You know, it's comforting to repeat actions and have something that's very familiar to them. But me, I love to try everything, anything. Give me a stick, I will draw in the dirt. You know, because it comes down to me expressing my emotions. Again, my art is my psychotherapy, and it's helped me so much in times of stress and strain in everyday life. You know, I know it's something that I can always run back to. I can create my own worlds when the real world around me is a little unhappy. Again, it's how I deal with my emotions, and I think a lot of people could benefit from that, you know, getting their emotions out.
Get stuff out, exactly.
Yes, yes.
I want to take a look at some of the other things that you've done here. There's a couple of different mediums, because you've done some things in ceramics, which is more of a three-dimensional artwork. Here's a couple of some stuff that we have right here. And that's like, working in 3 dimensions has got to be so much different than just, you know, on a canvas or a flat surface like what you're painting down there. And so,
oh yeah,
how do you make that mental transition?
Well, you know, I've always loved to work with clay when I was a kid, and I'm just a big kid. I like to explore everything, and there's something special with clay. Creating something that can actually have a purpose that you can use is just as wonderful as creating something that you can hang on your wall. And
okay.
Again, it comes down to expressing yourself, and clay, there's something about working with clay that you're giving birth to something, and there's something unique, something special to every one of us. And when we work in something that's three-dimensional, I think it becomes very unique to each and every one of us. Nobody else can create what we create singly.
Right.
Yes.
So now these particular items, are these for candles, or what is the purpose of this?
This was part of a dinnerware set that I made originally. It came with a tree trunk to hang the squirrels on. They have a little hole underneath their chin that you're originally supposed to hang them on. But the tree didn't work out quite what I was hoping for. And but the squirrels actually ended up quite nice, and I line them up on my table once in a while and fill the cups with nuts.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
it's just,
cool.
You know, I like creating
fun.
stuff that connects to what you're trying to serve.
And there's a lot of other things that you've done too. Matter of fact, the first time we met and we started talking, you were telling me that originally you started your work using pen and pencil. So
Yes.
you were sketching in you know, like a sketchbook or whatever. And I think we've got one of the things that you did, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was in pencil, and I call it a griffin. I don't know that it's really what it is. It's later. This is there you go. This guy right
yes.
here. And so this was pencil, right?
Yeah, this is graphite, and I drew this probably when I was about 13 or 14, and
Really?
I love monsters. I grew up watching things like Creature Features and Night Gallery.
Oh yeah, right.
And I love all those things, and this is just something that came out of my mind. I love anything that's living. I love life forms, trees, animals, people.
I want to talk about this now, because you said you did this when you were about
13 or 14.
13 or 14, which
Maybe,
is well before you were involved. You got that direction relative to observation and drawing, which there, or whatever the term was that you used. Can't remember off the top of my head. But when you look at this is actually this looks pretty cool to me. I mean, it's very well done. I mean, you can see the. It looks like it's about to jump off the screen and come right at you, which is kind of cool. So that's for someone who was 13 or 14 to be drawing like that, seems to me that's pretty darn cool. So
thank you very much. You know, and I got to tell you, everything that you're going to see, it's me. This creature, it's me. You know, again. So
you're going to morph here on camera.
Well, again, you know, the world of fantasy is a boundless world, and you know, again, whenever I'm unsatisfied with the world that I'm in, I draw myself somewhere else, and this creature is me.
Okay.
It's a non-violent creature. I know it looks pretty scary,
but it's not so bad. Well, there's another thing that you had done, and we talked about that was a project that you had when you were at the Art Institute that was involved with, I think you said that they gave you very general directions to create something that, well, I don't remember what the details were. So
create our own species.
Create your own species.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So now we've got this
fun.
right here. We got this cool creature
So
here.
fun, yeah.
So tell us about this species.
It had to be a viable species. I went through anatomy and we'd studied bones and muscle structure, and so this is our final, and we had to create a viable species. Had to have a skeleton, muscles, it had to feed, it had to reproduce. And so I went out and
we have another image, I think, that has the skeletal structure on it.
Yeah, what this was is we were to draw the skeleton and have a transparent overlay showing the muscles, and we even had to mark out and write some of the bones, some of the muscle structure, and I took a mosquito, a cockroach, and a cave woman and blended them. And you had to do some creative writing. You had to think up how it could be viable. A meteor crashed from Mars with some active bacteria. A cockroach ate it. It was immediately preyed upon by a mosquito. The mosquito went on to bite a pregnant cave woman, and her fetus started to change into something else. And these beings have evolved right alongside with us. There's a whole story that went with us, and
that must have been a lot of fun to do.
Oh, it was super fun, super fun. I've never been involved in anything like that. And again, just a few ideas. I'd never thought about creating my own species. And I did a lot of study. I took out a lot of books on insects, on animals, trying to find things that were relevant to the project. And I cooked up something. I kind of freaked out my anatomy teacher.
There you go.
Yay.
Well, this takes me into wanting to talk a little bit more about something I touched on at the introduction of the show, which has to do with education and involvement of art in education, whatever. Because what you've just been telling me about this particular project that was presented to you, that you created in an artistic format, something, it stimulated a tremendous amount of thought, a tremendous amount of research, a lot of creativity, and you had to think through challenges and problems. So, so where do you see the fine arts fitting into the curriculum of education?
Well, I mean, a lot of emphasis is made today on having classes that get kids good jobs, technology, computer things, and I totally support that. But we need the arts for creativity. Excuse me. I know I've heard of a teaching curriculum being pushed called STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. But I've also heard some teachers advocate STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and math, because they're finally starting to realize that we need art for creativity. And again, when we create something with our mind and our hands, it's very unique to us. And I immediately think of Plato's theory of forms, where non-physical ideas are more real than what's real around us. And I think that when we create something, we create new neural connections in our brain, and we actually change ourselves somehow for the better, I think. There's great benefit in the arts. And even just being able to just quickly sketch down an idea in your mind, here in the Silicon Valley, I would think that would be very useful if you're thinking up things in a business sense, and just being able to toss something out very quickly, I think would be very beneficial.
Are you familiar with any programs? I mean, I'm not off the top of my head, but any programs that are here in Silicon Valley that are supporting the effort in getting more art education into the school system?
Well, I hope so. Now, I'm a little light on knowing that, and I would love to become a spokesperson for the arts. Again, I think it's vital. And when I was going through Foothill College, a lot of the students I ran into, they seemed very, very burnt out and not happy with what they were learning. And I always told them, get into art, get into something that's creative, and you might just get more enthusiasm for what you're really going for. And the couple people that actually did it, wow, they
changed.
Yeah, it sure did.
I was never involved in so much in the graphic arts, but I have been participating in singing. So I do I sing with a barbershop quartet and a chorus, and I did some of that when I was in college, and so I found it to be very helpful in the sense that when I could sit there and work on a piece of music, then none of the other stuff that was going on in the course of the day really mattered.
Exactly.
And it was a way to just allow that tension to drain. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy. but it's different, and it's on a creative vein, and it really had it was, because I'm assuming that it's the same for you. You were saying earlier that it's more like psychotherapy for you.
Yeah, and then it's also the process of any type of art, singing, dancing, creating something visual, can be calming in and of itself, and thinking of all the things that you need to do to create a piece or write a successful song. You focus on something that's a little bit bigger than yourself, bigger than your problems in life, I think. And so, again, I think that creativity can be very calming and therapeutic for anybody who gets into it, no matter what you're doing.
I would 100% agree with that. Well, we've only got, I don't know, a little over a minute left in the show. So one of the things I want to do here is I want to go back and have them pull up an image of this image number 6, so the current look of the box. And I want you to let the people know, where is this exactly? Where is it that you're working on this piece?
It's on the corner of Winchester Boulevard and Campbell Avenue in Campbell.
Okay.
At the entrance to downtown Campbell, and a very public spot. Lots of exposure, and half the fun is meeting the people that come by. I've met so many local people, artists, musicians.
I know my grandson was very interested. He saw what you were doing. He was excited about going over and seeing what was going on. And this is pretty much kitty corner from the Heritage Theater.
Heritage Theater. Yes,
okay.
Yes, very close to it, and that's what made me think, yes.
Giving the people some sort of orientation as to exactly where this is. So, yeah, so very cool. Winnie, this has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate that. And
time's flown by. And
the opportunity to see the evolution of some of the stuff that you've done is very cool. And congratulations on being able to get this assignment, and hopefully
thank you very much.
More, and hopefully this will lead to other things. So, folks, like I said, about 15 minutes ago, if you have any questions, send them in to us at info@referencepointtv.com. You've seen Winifred's website up there. Go up and check out her work. There's some fabulous stuff up there. So, Winnie,
thank you very much.
Thanks again for coming on Reference Point.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen,
Alrighty.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.